right, we are ready for lesson 6 today. Now, you are going to, today, what we're going to do is we're just going to read through some of these pages, and then you're going to have an assignment, and it's going to be a study guide page, 2 pages, pages 9 and 10. That's going to be done on your own for a grade. Obviously, use your book when you have a study guide page, okay? And those study guide pages we're going to be using for review before we take our tests, okay? All right, so let's look at page 11 in your reader book. It says political boundaries. Now, we've been talking about maps. Now, when it says political, it doesn't necessarily mean like politics. It means something a little different. So let's see what it says there at the top of page 11. A political map shows the man-made boundaries around the countries. Borders between the countries are called political boundaries. These boundaries show the land belonging to the government of each country. A country's borders can change rapidly, or they can stay the same for hundreds of years. Different events can cause a boundary to change. A war treaty can cause a change. The purchase of land or even a marriage between national leaders can cause a change. As the United States bought land and went to war, its boundaries changed. Study these maps to see how the borders of the United States changed. So let's look at the map at the very top. See where it says United States 1803? Now, in the dark orange right there, that's what the United States was. That's all it was. In 1800 and before that, that's it. That's all. Pardon me. And then the green says Louisiana Purchase. In 1803, that was owned by France. And Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd president of the United States, went to talk to Napoleon, and he bought all of that land for like, I don't remember how much it was. It was not for very, it was a lot of money, but for back then it wasn't a lot of money. Or for now, it wasn't a lot of money. Back then it was. Anyway, he bought New Orleans, and he bought all from the Mississippi westward, close to the Rocky Mountains. That's a ton of land. But do you see how it expanded the boundaries of the United States? Look at the United States in 1850. This is just 47 years later. Okay? Look at that. We've got now Texas as a state. Then you've got Oregon Territory, Minnesota Territory, and unorganized territory. Utah, New Mexico Territory, California was a state. So it was, our boundaries were there, but not all of our state boundaries were there. See how it changed in 47 years? Now, in 11 more years, look at the bottom map. I apologize. 1861. We have most all of our states, except for Nebraska Territory, Utah, Nevada, Washington, and Dakota Territory, and New Mexico and Oklahoma Territory. Okay, but these states then were divided by, their political boundaries were divided by, and they were free states or slave states or whatever. So this is also right around the time of the Civil War. So you can look at the key there and see how they changed. Okay, look at the next page, page 12. Now we're going to talk about a different kind of boundary. Political boundaries, remember, those are like the boundaries around how a country or a state, the boundaries around it, the physical boundaries. Let's look at cultural boundaries. Geographers sometimes divide the earth according to people's culture or way of life. The culture map above shows 8 basic culture regions. Each region has one or more of the following in common: customs, beliefs, language. Can you name the regions shown on the map? We'll look at that in just a second. Just as physical boundaries of countries grow, shrink, or change names, cultural regions can also change. Changes can be brought about by the development of ideas and the movement of people. So look up there, that the cultural regions. Let's look at the different colors on the key. You've got North America, you've got Latin America, Europe, Central Eurasia, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Oceania. Now, those are not the names of just the continents, but those are the names of the cultures that live there. All right, let's look at page 13. We're going to learn a little bit more about how maps are divided up. Now we're going to look at natural boundaries, and these are, to me, very easy. So geographers can also define the boundaries of regions according to the land features. Some rivers, mountain ranges, lakes, and seas form borders, and these borders are called natural boundaries. Help Gus decide what natural features form the state borders on the map. Look at the geogloss on pages 322 to 323. There you can find the definitions of the natural features. We'll look at that in a minute. Let's look at the map at the very top where it says Mississippi River. Do you see the Mississippi River? Let's see, where is it on there? Yeah, I see it. It's right down there in Louisiana. That forms a boundary. You see the Appalachian Mountains? Those are, and those blue things, those are rivers. Rivers, little tributaries that come off the Mississippi, and they form boundaries to different things. Look at the physical map of Asia at the bottom. Do you see the key, the color key at the bottom? The plains areas are green, and it kind of just moves up into the deep, dark red, maroony type color. That's your high mountain ranges. And you can see that color code there. Okay. Let's look at the back of our book on pages 322. This is a geogloss. Okay, short for geo, earth, gloss, short for glossary. So basically, this just kind of shows us what natural boundaries can be, geographic features. Okay, you could just look at it. I'm not going to go over it with you. You can see the different things, what they are. I would suggest that you just kind of study this page a little bit. There's no sense in me going over it with you when you know how to read. It's just a diagram showing us the different things. Pretty cool, huh? I used to have a big poster that showed all of this. I don't know where it's at now. Okay, good. Now, you might want to put a little piece of paper there, a bookmark or something, because you might want to look back there. Okay, good deal. Let's look then at pages 14 and 15. These are almost our last pages, I think. Let's see, what pages do we read to? Yeah, these are our last two pages. Now, this is another way in which the world is divided up, and these are time zones. To me, these get very confusing, but that's okay. All right, so another way of dividing the earth is by time zones. A time zone is a region that shares the same time. In the past, people mainly used the sun to tell time. In the past, people mainly used the sun to tell time. When the sun was at its highest, people knew it was noon. But since the earth rotates on its axis, not all places have the sun at the same time. When the sun rises in New York, it's still dark in California. Using the sun to tell time made it difficult for people traveling by railroad in the 1800s. Times varied from city to city, and as a result, people agreed to divide the country into regions. These regions had different bands of time known as time zones. As modern transportation developed, time zones were added around the world. Finding the time in areas other than your own involves addition or subtraction based on the directions of east and west. For every zone you move to the east, you have to add an hour to your time. For every zone you move to the west, you subtract an hour from your own time zone. So find your time zone on the map, then name a place that would show a time 2 hours earlier than your own. Okay, so before we finish this about the international date line, let's find where we are. Now, we're on page 14 on the map. You see where it's purple and it says Chicago? Okay, we're in that time zone. That's called the central time zone in America. 2 hours before us is where Los Angeles, California is at. They're 2 hours behind us. So right now, this morning when I'm filming this, it is 7:09 a.m. Okay, so that means right now in California, most people are still asleep. It's 5:09 a.m. over there. But if you go up to over to where New York is, it's 2 hours ahead. So it's 9:09 over there. They're already at school. They're already at work. They're getting the day going. So anyway, that's kind of, and that's just in our own country. Let's look at where it says the international date line at the very bottom of page 14. That line marks where the date changes. It's an imaginary line in the Pacific Ocean at about 180 degrees longitude. A person who travels west across the date line loses a day. A person traveling east over that line gains a day. That's hard to imagine. So look at page 15. At the top, you see where it says the prime meridian? Okay, look over to, go east all the way to the edge of that map. You see that dark line? It says International Date Line. That's where the day changes. So that means if it is, and then there's a one on the other side because the earth is round, so it's the same line. So that means right now, over in Tokyo, Japan, it's actually going to be tomorrow. Or is it yesterday? I don't know. I get confused, but that's okay. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I want you to use those pages that we read over, and I want you to do your study guide, pages 9 and 10. Okay, and be ready because tomorrow you're going to take quiz 1B. So make sure you're ready for that, okay? All right, that's all for today.